The Alpha King who feared the full moon and refused to claim his mate. Chapter 1. The Lonely King. He had power. He had victory. But every full moon, something was missing. A silence no crown could fill. King Bary Rowan stood on the highest tower of Silvercrest Castle, watching the full moon rise over the whispering woods. At 27, he had everything an alpha could want. Strength that could fell ancient oaks, a pack that would die for him, victories in battle that birds sang about in every tavern from the northern peaks to the southern shores. His kingdom stretched across fertile valleys and mighty rivers. His coffers were full, his people were safe. By every external measure, he was a success, a legend in his own time. Yet the wolf within him howled with emptiness, a deep, resonant ache that no victory, no praise, no display of power could ever soothe. His castle, for all its grandeur, felt like a beautifully decorated cage. Still searching the horizon, brother? His beta, Marcus, approached with 2 goblets of wine, the rich, dark vintage smelling of elderberries and oak. 5 years, Marcus. 5 years since I came of age, and still no sign of her. Bary's blue eyes reflected the moonlight, turning them into liquid mercury. They were eyes that had seen the horrors of war and the complexities of peace, but never the one thing they truly sought. Every full moon, I feel the pull stronger. She's out there somewhere. I can almost taste her scent on the wind, hear the faintest echo of a heartbeat that syncs with mine. But it's just an echo, just a ghost. The mate bond is patient, my king. It will find you when I'm ready? Bary laughed bitterly, the sound swallowed by the vast night. I've heard that from every elder in the pack. I've conquered 3 rival territories, negotiated peace with the mountain clans, and doubled our lands. I've built schools and granaries, mediated disputes, and sat through council meetings until dawn. I have done everything asked of a king, of an alpha, of a man. How much more ready must I be? Marcus clasped his shoulder, his grip firm and familiar. Perhaps it's not about being ready. Perhaps it's about being open. Your heart has been a fortress, Bary. Strong, impenetrable. A mate isn't an enemy to be besieged. She's a key. Below them, preparations for the Grand Moon Festival were underway. Torches were being lit, banners of 7 different kingdoms were being hung, and the distant sounds of hammering and laughter drifted up. Alphas from 7 kingdoms had been invited, a celebration of the treaty Bary had brokered after the brutal 2-year War of Shadows. It was a political triumph, a symbol of his diplomatic skill. But to Bary it felt hollow. A party for a peace he couldn't enjoy alone. Among the guests would be King Eldric of the Flameheart Kingdom and his daughter, Princess Annet, whose reputation as a warrior had reached even Silvercrest. Bary had heard the tales. The princess who disarmed a seasoned knight at 14, who had petitioned her father to reform their military training, who had, famously, turned down a line of suitors with increasingly creative and scathing rejections. He respected her from afar. She was a problem he did not need, or so he told himself. Before we continue, take a breath with me. Just want to tell me where you're listening from, the city that holds you right now, because what's about to unfold might stay with you long after the sound fades. Chapter 2. The Princess Who Refused to be Claimed. 3 days' ride away, in the flame-lit heart of a kingdom built on volcanic rock and iron will, Princess Annet of Flameheart stood in the training yard, her blade singing through the air. Sweat dampened her dark hair, which was tied back in a ruthless braid, but her stance remained perfect, just as her godfather, General Thaddeus, had taught her. The yard was her sanctuary, the one place where titles and expectations fell away, leaving only the clean language of steel and strategy. Again, the general barked, not a hint of softness in his grizzled face. Your opponent won't tire just because you do.
He'll use your fatigue.
He'll see the microsecond delay in your parry, and he will end you. Again. Annet lunged, her sword meeting his with a satisfying clash that sent sparks flying. She twisted, using his momentum against him, and swept his legs with a move that was all fluid grace and controlled power. The legendary warrior hit the ground with a grunt, the air knocked from his lungs. "Better," he acknowledged, a flicker of pride in his eyes as he accepted her offered hand. "Your father wants to see you. Immediately." Something about the moon festival and a stack of parchment that looks threatening. In the throne room, warmed by glowing braziers shaped like dragon heads, King Eldrick watched his daughter approach with a mixture of pride and concern. At 23, Annet had grown into a woman who commanded respect not through her title, but through her skill and fierce independence. She walked like she owned the ground beneath her feet, and in a way, she did. The people loved her, the soldiers respected her, and the court, well, the court was terrified of her. It was a state of affairs she quite enjoyed. "Father, if this is about finding me a husband," she began, not even breaking stride. "It's about keeping you safe," Eldrick interrupted gently, but his eyes were serious. "For alphas have already sent formal word that they intend to claim you at the festival. Their letters are less proposals and more declarations of acquisition. Thorne of the Blackwood Pack has been particularly insistent. His last messenger all but said he'd be bringing a collar." Annet's jaw tightened, her knuckles going white where they rested on the pommel of her practiced sword. "Then they'll learn what happens when someone tries to claim what isn't theirs. I am not a tract of land to be annexed, father." "Which is precisely why you're going," Eldrick said, standing and coming to her. "Not to be paraded like a prize, but to show these alphas that my daughter bows to no one. Let them see you. Let them understand the magnitude of their error. Besides, you've always wanted to see the legendary Silvercrest. Their library is said to be unmatched, their tactics worth studying." Annet's anger softened. Her father understood her better than anyone. He had never tried to break her spirit, only to hone it. And if one of them tries something? If this Thorne decides ceremony is for the weak? Then I pity the fool. Eldrick smiled, a rare, wolfish grin that reminded her he had not always been a diplomat. "But Annet, not all alphas are like Thorne. King Bary, our host, is said to be a man of honor, a thinker, a builder. He ended a war with a treaty, not a massacre. Keep an open mind." "Open mind, closed fist," Annet replied, making her father laugh, a rich, warm sound that filled the stone hall. "That's my girl. Now go. Pack your armor. And for the love of the moon, pack a dress. Just one. For appearances." Chapter 3. First Sight. The Moon Festival's opening night transformed Silvercrest into a realm of magic and murmured politics. Torches blazed along every path, musicians filled the air with haunting melodies, and the scent of roasted meats and honey mead wafted through the crowds. It was a tapestry of light and shadow, of laughter and carefully watched glances. Alliances were being tested, old wounds prodded, new ones potentially forged. Bary moved through his guests with practiced grace, a king playing his part. He greeted alphas and their entourages, exchanged pleasantries, laughed at the right moments. But his mind was elsewhere, his wolf restless beneath his skin. Something was different about tonight. The air itself seemed charged with anticipation, thick with possibility like the moments before a summer storm. Then he saw her. Princess Annet stepped into the moonlit clearing, and for Bary, time seemed to slow, then stop entirely. She wore armor disguised as a gown, silver scales that caught the light like a waterfall of stars, practical yet stunningly beautiful. Her dark eyes, the color of rich earth, scanned the crowd with a warrior's assessment, not the demure glance of a simpering noble. When she moved, it was with the controlled power of a predator, every step deliberate, assured. She was a storm given human form, and Bary felt the ground shift beneath him. The mate bond struck him like a physical force, a lightning bolt to the soul. His wolf surged forward, a primal roar of recognition blazing through every nerve. Mine, it howled, a sound only he could hear.
Ours.
Forever. But Bary, the king, the man who had spent years mastering his every impulse, forced himself to remain still, to breathe. He'd heard the stories of Princess Annet. If she was truly his mate, and every cell in his body screamed that she was, then claiming her like a prize, letting the alpha instinct overwhelm him, would drive her away forever. He had one chance, and it required not the strength of his body, but the strength of his restraint. Across the clearing, Annet felt eyes on her, a gaze so intense it was like a physical touch. She turned, her defenses immediately rising, to find a tall, broad-shouldered man watching her. King Bary. His blue eyes seemed to glow in the moonlight, and something about his gaze made her wolf stir in a way it never had before, not with alarm, but with a strange, resonant curiosity. It was as if a string she never knew existed had been plucked deep inside her. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the noise of the festival, the politics, the very world fell away. There was only the moon, the space between them, and a silent, undeniable question hanging in the air. Chapter 4. The Unwelcome Suitor. Beautiful, isn't she? A cold, grating voice shattered the moment like dropped glass. Alpha Thorne stepped between them, his massive frame blocking Annet's view of Bary. He was scarred, his face a map of old violence, and he wore a smile that didn't reach his cold, calculating eyes. He smelled of pine and blood, an aggressive, dominating scent. Princess Annet, Thorne said, ignoring Bary entirely as if he were a piece of furniture. I've traveled far to meet you. They say you're the finest warrior among the royal houses. They say you fight like a demon. I look forward to testing that claim. Personally. Then you'll be disappointed, Annet replied coolly, not giving an inch of ground. I'm here to enjoy the festival, not to prove myself to every alpha with something to compensate for. Her voice was calm, but it carried the sharp edge of a well-honed blade. Several nearby guests gasped. Thorne's false smile disappeared, replaced by a flat, dangerous glare. Careful, princess. That sharp tongue could get you into trouble. The world is not a training yard. Real consequences await those who speak out of turn. Only if you're foolish enough to let words wound you. Bary interjected smoothly, stepping to Annet's side, his presence a solid, calm counterpoint to Thorne's aggression. Welcome to Silvercrest, princess. I'm honored by your presence. And Thorne, I believe the hunting competition begins at dawn. Perhaps you should rest. You'll need your strength if you hope to keep pace with my trackers. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a king's dismissal, wrapped in polite words but undeniable in its authority. Thorne's eyes flicked between them, calculating, his fury a palpable heat. Then he bowed stiffly, a motion so insincere it was an insult in itself, and withdrew. But not before Annet caught the promise of violence in his gaze, a silent vow that this was not over. Thank you, she said to Bary, her eyes still tracking Thorne's retreat, though I can handle men like him. I don't doubt it for a second, Bary replied, his voice lowering. But as your host, I have a responsibility to ensure all my guests feel safe. Even the ones who clearly don't need protection. Especially them. Annet studied him, reassessing. Most alphas would have used that moment to assert dominance, to puff out their chests and demonstrate their strength. Bary had done neither. He had supported her without undermining her. You're not what I expected, King Bary. Neither are you, Princess Annet. A genuine smile touched his lips, though everything I expected was far less impressive than the reality. He offered his arm. Would you walk with me? There's a garden view of the moon you shouldn't miss. It's quieter. We can speak without 100 ears listening. Against her better judgment, against every rule of political caution she'd ever learned, Annet took his arm. The contact was electric, a jolt that traveled up her arm and settled in her chest. His forearm was solid as rock beneath the fine fabric of his tunic. Chapter 5: Moonlight Confessions. The royal gardens were a masterpiece of nature and subtle magic. Moonflowers bloomed silver and white, their petals seeming to capture and hold the lunar light. A fountain carved from white marble depicted wolves running in an eternal, joyful circle beneath a full moon, water cascading around them. The sound was gentle, soothing, a stark contrast to the raucous festival behind them. "It's beautiful," Annet breathed, the genuine admiration cutting through her usual guarded tone. "My mother designed it," Bary said softly, a note of old grief coloring his voice.
Before she passed.
She believed that even warriors need beauty in their lives. That strength without tenderness is just brutality. I try to remember that. "You lost her young?" Annet asked, sensing the story was important. 10 years ago. Raiders from the Shadowlands. My father died defending her." Bary's jaw tightened, the memory still raw. "I became alpha at 17. Overnight. Blood on my hands, a crown too heavy for my head. Some said I was too young, too untested. So I proved them wrong the only way I knew how, through strength and victory. I became the unbreakable king. I thought that was what she would have wanted." Annet heard the loneliness beneath his words, an echo of her own. "And now? Now that you've proven it all, now I have everything I fought for." He turned to look at her, the moonlight etching the strong planes of his face. "Except..." He trailed off, his silver eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Do you believe in the mate bond, princess?" The question surprised her, its directness disarming. "I believe it exists. Biologically, magically, whatever you want to call it. Whether I believe in surrendering to it is another matter entirely. I've seen what it does. I've seen strong women become shadows, their fire banked to embers for the comfort of their mate. What if it wasn't about surrendering?" Bary took a step closer, his voice a low rumble. "What if it was about finding an equal? A partner who makes you more of who you are, not less? What if it was about two flames coming together to make a bigger fire?" Before Annet could answer, could even process the hope in his words, a scream pierced the night, sharp, terrified, and close. Both of them moved instantly, the moment shattered, racing toward the sound with the lethal grace of their kind. In a shadowed courtyard off the main path, they found a young servant girl cornered by two of Thorne's men, their intentions clear and vile.
"Leave. Now."
Bary's voice changed, dropping into an alpha command that vibrated with power, a force that could compel obedience from weaker wolves. But Thorne's men were strong, emboldened by their master's cruel example and the mead they'd consumed. The Alpha King should mind his own business. One sneered, his words slurred. "We're just having a bit of fun." Annet moved like lightning released from a cloud. Her fist connected with the first man's jaw with a sickening crack, dropping him instantly. The second barely had time to react before she swept his legs from under him and pinned him to the cobblestones with a knee to his chest, her dagger at his throat. "When a lady says no," Annet said, her voice colder than the mountain springs, "she means no. Tell your master that Flameheart doesn't tolerate predators. And if I see you again, I'll remove the parts you're so fond of misusing. Now get out of my sight." Bary helped the shaking servant girl to her feet, his voice gentle as he ensured she was unharmed before having two of his guards appear to escort her to safety. When he turned back, Annet was releasing Thorne's men with a shove, watching them scramble away with pure contempt. "You're magnificent," Bary said, the words escaping him without thought or filter. Annet looked at him, her defensive walls cracking slightly at the sheer, unadulterated admiration in his eyes. "You didn't try to stop me, or insist on handling it yourself. Most would have. Why would I? You were handling it perfectly." He smiled, a real, warm smile that transformed his face. "Though I wouldn't have minded the chance to knock them around a little myself. They deserved it." For the first time, Annet laughed, a genuine, unexpected sound of delight that seemed to startle even her. You really are different, aren't you? I try to be. Bary's expression grew serious again, the moment of humor passing. Annet, I know we've just met, but I have to be honest with you. From the moment I saw you tonight, my wolf has been certain of something. It's not a suspicion. It's a knowing deep in my bones. I think you're my mate. Chapter 6. Truth and Challenge. Annet had expected many things from the alphas at this festival: posturing, demands, attempts at seduction through displays of power or wealth. She had prepared for arrogance, for condescension, for thinly veiled threats. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected devastating honesty. You think I'm your mate, she repeated slowly, buying time as her mind raced. And you're telling me this because? Because if it's true, you deserve to know. And because I won't claim you, won't pursue you, unless you want me to. Bary stepped closer, the space between them charged. I've waited 5 years to find my mate, Annet. 5 years of emptiness. Now that I have, I'm not going to ruin it by treating you like a prize to be won. You're a warrior, a leader in your own right. If we're meant to be together, it will be because we choose it. Both of us. Annet's wolf stirred again, stronger this time, a yearning pulled deep in her core. She'd felt something when their eyes first met, a magnetic draw she'd never experienced before. Could the stories be wrong? Could the bond be this? Respect instead of possession? A question instead of a command? I need time, she said finally, her voice firm but not unkind. I need to know you're not just saying what I want to hear. Words are easy, Bary. Actions are what matter. Then test me, Bary challenged, his eyes gleaming. I'm hosting combat trials tomorrow, friendly competitions among the visiting alphas and their warriors. Fight alongside me. Against me if you prefer. See for yourself what kind of man I am. See how I fight, how I lead, how I treat my opponents. See the truth of me. Against you, Annet decided without hesitation, a competitive spark lighting in her own eyes. If we're equals, prove it. On the sand, with steel. Bary's smile was pure, wolfish delight. Dawn in the main arena. Don't hold back, princess. I never do, King Bary. Chapter 7. Thorne's Gambit. In the dense shadows beyond the garden wall, hidden by ancient, twisting ivy, Thorne watched the entire exchange. He had followed them, a predator tracking prey. He'd seen the way Bary looked at Annet, had recognized the dawning glow of the mate bond forming between them. It was the same bond he'd been denied years ago when his own chosen mate had rejected him, choosing a fatal leap from the cliffs over a life at his side. The old, festering wound in his soul split open anew. He wouldn't let Bary have what he'd been denied. He would break it, or he would take it for himself. My lord, one of his men approached, nursing his bruised jaw. The princess, she's a wildcat, is magnificent, Thorne finished, his gaze never leaving the two figures in the garden. And she will be mine. Bary thinks he can win her with honor and respect. With talk. He spat on the ground.
Fool.
Women like Annet need to be tamed, shown their place. They need to understand that their strength is a gift from their alpha, not their own. How will you proceed? Thorne smiled cruelly, pulling a small, obsidian vial from his belt. It seemed to drink the moonlight, leaving a spot of deeper darkness in his palm. This is Dreamwalker's poison, distilled from nightshade and shadow moss. Slipped into her wine. It will let me enter her dreams, plant visions, twist her fears. I'll show her a future alone, abandoned by Bary, her spirit broken. She'll wake feeling hollow, questioning everything. The mate bond will seem like a trap, a beautiful lie come to watch. The sandy floor of the arena had been raked smooth, waiting for the drama to unfold. Annet entered the ring to a mix of cheers and murmurs. She wore full combat gear, light, articulated leather armor over her torso, bracers on her forearms, her sword strapped across her back, and twin daggers at her thighs. She looked not like a princess playing at war, but like a general arriving for work. Across from her, Bary wore simple, sturdy training clothes, his own well-worn blade at his side. The rising sun caught the silver in his eyes, making them glow. Rules, Annet called out, her voice carrying easily across the hushed arena. First to yield or first blood, Bary replied, his voice just as clear. No killing blows, obviously. And Annet. He paused, a flicker of that wolfish smile returning. Don't hold back, because I'm the host. I'd be insulted. Wouldn't dream of it, she shot back, settling into her opening stance. The combat master's flag dropped. They moved as one, a blur of motion meeting in the center of the ring with a clash of steel that rang like a bell across the stone stands. Annet was a whirlwind, her strikes precise, controlled, and lightning fast. But Bary was an unmovable mountain, his alpha power and experience evident in every effortless parry, his strength turning aside blows that would have shattered a lesser fighter's guard. They circled each other, a dance of potential violence. Annet feinted left, then swept low, her leg aiming for his ankles. Bary leaped back just in time, impressed. You're good, he said, breathing hard but steady. You're better than I expected, she admitted, not taking her eyes off him, already calculating her next move. They engaged again. This time, Annet used her smaller size and speed to her advantage, ducking under a powerful swing and getting inside his guard. In a move of breathtaking audacity, she dropped her sword, grabbed his wrist to control his weapon arm, and her other hand brought her dagger up. The point kissed his ribs, not deep enough to wound seriously, but enough to draw a thin line of crimson against his shirt. First blood. The crowd erupted, a roar of shock, admiration, and wild cheering. Bary looked down at the small, stinging cut, then up at Annet. His expression wasn't anger or humiliation, but pure, unadulterated admiration. Yield, he declared, loud enough for all to hear. Gasps rippled through the audience. An alpha king, yielding to a princess in front of his entire court and visiting rivals? You had me, Bary continued, his voice carrying authority and sincerity. Clean strike. Your victory, Princess Annet of Flameheart. As they stepped forward to clasp forearms in the traditional warrior salute, Bary leaned in, his voice for her alone. You fight like the moon itself. Beautiful, fierce, and impossible to capture. Only to be admired, and to light the way. Annet's heart raced, and not just from the exertion of the fight. His words, his respect, the thrill of the fair victory. It was a headier cocktail than any wine. Chapter 9. The Dream That Wasn't. That night, after a feast celebrating the day's competitions where Bary had toasted Annet's skill with genuine pride, she retired to her chambers exhausted but exhilarated. Her conversations with Bary had continued throughout the day. Deep discussions of military strategy, shared stories of battles fought and lessons learned, unexpected laughter over shared, dry humor. She'd never connected with anyone so quickly, so completely. It was terrifying and wonderful. Maybe the mate bond was real. Maybe it didn't have to mean losing herself. Maybe it could mean finding someone who saw her, truly saw her, and didn't flinch. Maybe it could be a partnership. She fell asleep with those dangerous, hopeful thoughts. The dream began beautifully. She and Bary were running as wolves through the moon-drenched whispering woods, their coats silver and ebony, moving as one seamless entity. The bond between them was a physical sensation, a golden thread of joy and belonging. It felt more real than waking life. But then the scene shattered. The woods turned to gray stone, the empty great hall of Silvercrest. She saw herself years older, her eyes dull, standing alone as she watched Bary across the room. He was laughing, his arm around another woman, a beautiful, gentle-looking soul who hung on his every word. Annet heard his voice, cold and distant. The mate bond? That was just physical attraction. A political advantage. Nothing more. The vision shifted again. She was in Flameheart, but the training yard was empty.
Her sword was gone.
Her father looked at her with pity. She was alone, Her independence taken, her strength leached away, abandoned by the bond and the man she dared to trust. "No," she whispered in the dream, a sob tearing at her throat. "That's not real. That's not him." But the visions were relentless, a curated gallery of her deepest, most secret fears given vivid, agonizing life. She woke with tears drying on her cheeks and a crushing hollowness in her chest, the residual emotions clinging like a poison fog. Something was profoundly wrong. These weren't her natural fears. They were too specific, too neatly crafted to dismantle her specific hopes. They felt invasive, like someone had rifled through her mind and arranged her insecurities into a play.
Someone had planted them.
Chapter 10. Suspicions Rise. Over the shared breakfast in the sunlit great hall, Bary immediately noticed the change in Annet. The warm, open warrior from yesterday was gone, replaced by a withdrawn, wary stranger. The walls were back up, higher and thicker than before. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked quietly, maneuvering to sit beside her, his body angled to give her space while offering his presence.
"No."
"I just needed to remember why I came here. To prove myself, not to fall for the first alpha who shows me respect." Her words were flat, rehearsed. Bary's wolf whimpered internally at the distance, but the man forced himself to stay calm, to observe. "Annet, talk to me. What happened?" The woman who faced me in the arena yesterday wouldn't hide from a conversation. "Nothing. Everything. I don't know." She rubbed her temples, as if trying to dispel a headache. "Bad dreams. That's all. Just shadows." But Bary's instincts, sharpened by both his alpha nature and the nascent mate bond, screamed that it was more. He leaned in subtly, inhaling. Beneath her scent of steel and jasmine was the faintest, sickly sweet trace of something dark and foreign. Dark magic. It clung to her like psychic cobwebs. Before he could press further, Marcus appeared at his elbow, his face grim. "My king, a word." Privately. In the antechamber, Marcus held up a small, empty obsidian vial. One of the kitchen maids found this rolled under the cabinet where the princess's evening wine was prepared. She recognized the smell from her village before the healers burned out the coven there. Dreamwalker's poison. Rage, pure and primal, flooded through Bary, hot and cold at once. Someone had poisoned his mate, invaded her mind, violated her most private self to twist her against him. The wolf in him wanted to tear the castle apart, to howl his fury to the moon. The king knew he had to be smarter. "Thorne," he growled, the name a curse. "We have no proof that links it to him," Marcus warned. "Only suspicion. The vial is clean. We cannot act on suspicion alone, not with 7 kingdoms watching. Then I'll get proof." Bary stormed back to the hall, his anger a contained storm. He knelt beside Annet's chair, ignoring the looks from others. "I know you value your independence above all, and I respect that more than you know. But someone used dark magic on you last night. They attacked your mind, Annet. That is an act of war. Please, let me help you. Not because you need rescuing, but because whoever did this has declared war on both of us." Annet looked from his earnest, furious face to the little vial in Marcus's hand. The pieces clicked into place with dreadful clarity, the unnatural quality of the dreams, the way they'd felt imposed, like a story she was being forced to watch. The hollow feeling was not hers. It was a toxin, a surge of her own. Cleaner fury washed away the residual doubt. "Show me how to fight this," she said, her voice turning to flint. "I won't let anyone control my mind. And then show me how to make them pay." Chapter 11. The Hunt Begins. Bary called an emergency council with all visiting alphas in the Stark, formal chamber used for war planning. The atmosphere was tense as ice. He placed the empty vial in the center of the great oak table. "Last night, someone attempted to poison Princess Annet with Dreamwalker's toxin," he announced, his voice devoid of all warmth. This is not only an act of war against Flameheart, but a profound violation of sacred hospitality, of pack law, and of basic decency. Whoever is responsible will answer to me. There will be no sanctuary, no political protection for this crime. Thorne's expression was a mask of careful neutrality, but Bary saw the slight gleam of satisfaction in his eyes. Terrible news, King Bary. I hope you find the culprit. Though one must wonder why anyone would target the princess specifically, unless she has made powerful enemies. Perhaps because someone wants to manipulate her, Bary replied, his silver eyes locking on Thorne like crosshairs. To make her doubt herself, doubt her allies, to make her vulnerable to a more direct approach. Or perhaps she has enemies we don't know about, Thorne suggested smoothly, spreading his hands. A woman who rejects so many suitors, who flaunts tradition, it's bound to stir resentment, even in civilized company. King Eldrick stood, his own alpha power flooding the room, a palpable heat. If my daughter has been harmed while under your protection, King Bary, then I will tear apart whoever is responsible with my own hands, Bary finished, meeting Eldrick's gaze without flinching. You have my word, Eldrick. Annet is. He paused, and let the truth hang in the air for all to hear. Precious to me. This will not stand. The hunt begins now. The meeting dissolved into a cacophony of tense accusations and defensive denials. But Bary noticed the telling details. Thorne's men were too calm, their alibis too neatly prepared, their outrage too performative. After the council, Annet cornered Bary in a quiet hallway. You think it's Thorne? I know it is, Bary said, his voice low. I can smell the residue of the same dark magic on him, the same psychic stench that was on you. It's faint, but it's there. But without concrete proof, I can't move against him openly. Pack law, the laws of all our kingdoms, require evidence before an accusation of this magnitude. Otherwise, it becomes my word against his, and we risk all-out war here and now. Then we get proof, Annet said, her mind working with tactical precision. What if we make him think his plan is working? I pretend to be more affected, pull away from you, seem lost and uncertain. He'll get confident, greedy. He'll make a mistake. He'll approach me directly. Absolutely not, Bary said immediately, his protectiveness flaring. I won't use you as bait. It's too dangerous. You're not using me. I'm volunteering. Annet gripped his arm, her fingers strong and sure. Bary, I felt what he did to my mind. That violation. I won't let him do that to anyone else. And I won't let him think for one more second that he can manipulate me into being his trembling prize. This is my fight as much as yours. Let me fight it my way. Their faces were close, the air between them crackling with tension, with fear for each other, and with that undeniable, growing connection. You're sure? Bary asked, searching her eyes. I'm sure. Besides, Annet allowed a slight, fierce smile. I want to see what he tries when he thinks he's winning. I want to look him in the eye when he realizes he's lost. Chapter 12. The Trap. For the next 2 days, Annet played her part with the skill of a master strategist. She avoided Bary at meals, spoke to him only in brief, cold formalities when forced to interact, and spent hours walking the battlements alone, seeming withdrawn and troubled. Thorne watched it all from a distance, his satisfaction a sour perfume in the air. On the third night, under a sliver of a moon, he found her alone in the same moonlit garden, standing by the wolf fountain. Princess Annet, you seem troubled. More so each day. I'm fine, Alpha Thorne, she said, not looking at him, her voice deliberately hollow. Are you? You seemed so taken with King Bary, but now. He moved closer, invading her space. Now you see him clearly, don't you? The mate bond is a pretty fantasy for ballads, but in reality, it's a chain. You'd lose yourself, become just another ornament on an alpha's arm. A trophy, silent and polished. Annet forced herself to shiver, to wrap her arms around herself. What would you know about it? I know that you deserve better. A true partnership with someone who appreciates your strength for what it is, a gift to be channeled. Thorne's hand reached for hers, his touch clammy. Someone like me, I wouldn't ask you to put down your sword, Annet. I'd ask you to wield it for me. Annet pulled her hand back as if burned, letting her true disgust show. You, who sent your men to assault a helpless servant, who uses dark magic to invade women's dreams. You speak of partnership while practicing slavery of the mind. Thorne's benevolent facade shattered like glass. So you know. Clever girl. But it doesn't matter. Those dreams showed you the truth. Bary will fail you, abandon you. I'm offering you real power. The power that comes from knowing your place beside a true alpha. You're offering me a gilded cage. Annet spat, her pretense falling away, her warrior's spine straightening. And I'd rather die free. From the shadows of the archways, Bary emerged, Marcus and a dozen royal guards with him. And you've just confessed to using forbidden magic, violating multiple pact laws, and the sacred laws of hospitality. Your words have been heard by your king and your peers, Thorne. Thorne's eyes went wild, shifting from Annet's defiant face to Bary as triumphant one. He had walked right into the trap. You think you've won? She'll never truly be yours, Bary. The bond may pull at her, but I've planted doubt deep in her mind, in her soul. She'll always wonder, always question your motives. You'll never have all of her. Then I'll spend every day of my life proving those doubts wrong, Bary said, his voice calm and absolute. Guards, take him to the cells. King Eldrick will decide his fate for the crime against his daughter and his kingdom. But Thorne was not a man to be taken quietly. With a roar of pure, enraged madness, he shifted. His clothes tore, and in his place stood a massive, scarred black wolf, saliva dripping from bared fangs. The guards hesitated for a fatal second, and Thorne lunged, not at Bary, but straight for Annet. Chapter 13. The festival's final night. Bary moved on pure instinct, shifting mid-leap. His own wolf, a majestic creature of silver and gray, intercepted Thorne's black form in a collision of muscle, fur, and fury. They crashed through a stone bench, sending splinters and dust flying. Annet rolled to safety, already drawing her blades, her heart hammering against her ribs. This is between us, Thorne. Bary's alpha voice was a guttural growl that vibrated in the chest. Leave her out of it. She is the prize. Thorne snarled, circling, his madness giving him a terrible, reckless strength. Everything is about her. My mate rejected me, and you get this perfect, fierce creature? I won't allow it. I'll take her, or I'll break her, so neither of us can have her. They clashed again, a brutal, vicious dance. Thorne was larger, fueled by insanity. But Bary fought with a clear, focused purpose of a protector, of a king defending what was his, not by right of claim, but by right of love and mutual choice. Around them, the peaceful festival erupted into chaos. Thorne's loyalists, waiting for a signal, revealed themselves, drawing hidden weapons and attacking Bary as guards. Old rivalries among the visiting alphas flared. Some saw an opportunity for chaos, others leaped to Bary as defense. The garden became a battlefield. Annet fought her way toward the dueling alphas, a whirlwind of steel. She disarmed one of Thorne's men with a twist of her wrist, elbowed another in the throat, and cut down a third who tried to grab her from behind. She reached the epicenter just as Thorne landed a devastating blow, his claws raking across Bary's side, painting his silver fur with crimson. Bary, she screamed. The sound ripped from her soul. The distraction cost him. Thorne seized the advantage, using his weight to pin Bary to the churned earth, his massive jaws opening for a killing bite at Bary's exposed throat. You lose, Thorne growled, triumph in his blood-red eyes. But he had forgotten about Annet. forgotten that she was not a prize to be won, but a warrior in her own right. Her sword was a flash of moonlight. It found the space between his ribs, not deep enough to kill, but enough to pierce muscle and steal his breath. Thorne roared in pain and shock, recoiling and rounding on her. "You dare." "I dare everything," Annet said, planting herself between him and the wounded Bary, her sword steady. "You wanted to manipulate my dreams? To make me small? Here's a reality for you, Thorne. I choose my own fate. I choose my own path. I choose my own mate." Her voice rose, clear and powerful over the din of battle. "And I choose him." The words were a declaration, a vow, a key turning in a lock. The mate bond, fully acknowledged and freely accepted by her, surged between Annet and Bary like a released dam. Bary felt it, a golden wave of healing energy, of pure connection. His wounds knit together with supernatural speed, strength flooding back into his limbs, magnified by her faith. He rose, his silver wolf standing tall once more, moving to stand shoulder to shoulder with Annet. Together, a woman with a sword and a wounded king in wolf form, they faced the raging Blackwood Alpha. "You wanted to see if she's truly my equal?" Bary's voice was a low, proud rumble. "Watch." Chapter 14, Unity. What followed was not a fight. It was a symphony. Annet and Bary moved as one entity, their connection singing between them, directing their movements. She was his eyes when he fainted. He was her shield when she lunged. Her speed was his precision. His power was her anchor. They had known each other for mere days, but the mate bond wove their instincts into perfect harmony. Thorne, for all his size and rage, couldn't match their unity. Every time he attacked one, the other was there to defend or counter. When he tried to retreat and regroup, they moved as one to cut off his escape. Finally, bleeding from a dozen wounds and driven to his knees, Thorne collapsed, shifting back into his human form, panting and defeated. "Yield," Bary commanded, standing over him in human form now, Annet at his side. "Never," Thorne spat, blood on his lips. "Kill me. Prove you're just like me, a beast who takes what he wants." "No," Annet said, her voice ringing with finality. "You're not worth becoming like you. You'll stand trial. You'll face justice for your crimes under the eyes of all the kingdoms. And then you'll spend the rest of your life in a dark cell, knowing that what you tried to destroy only made us stronger. Your legacy will be our unity." King Eldrick arrived then with the full might of the Flameheart Guard, having fought his way through the chaos. His eyes found his daughter, standing shoulder to shoulder with King Bary. The truth of the scene was unmistakable. "Annet." "I'm fine, father. More than fine." She looked at Bary and for the first time let every wall, every defense, come completely down. Her love and certainty shone in her eyes, bright and unshadowed. "I found him. My mate. My equal." Chapter 15. The Moon Knows. The healers tended to the wounded while the guards secured Thorne and his remaining loyalists. The Grand Moon Festival was over, but in its violent, chaotic end, something new and infinitely more precious had been born. Bary and Annet stood in the wreckage of the moonlit garden, the fountain still flowing miraculously amidst the chaos, a symbol of persistence. "I'm sorry," Bary said, his hand finding hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. "I invited you here to show you something beautiful, and instead—" "You showed me exactly what I needed to see," Annet interrupted, turning to face him. "You showed me a man who respects my choices even when it costs him, who fights beside me, not for me, who sees me as a partner, not a prize. You showed me your heart, Bary, and it's the strongest thing I've ever seen." "You saved my life tonight," Bary said softly, raising their joined hands. "And you saved mine the moment you chose to be honest instead of manipulative." She stepped closer. "Bary, I've spent my whole life proving I don't need anyone. But maybe needing someone isn't the same as being weak. Maybe choosing to stand with someone, to trust them with your heart, maybe that's another kind of strength. The hardest kind. The mate bond doesn't make you less, Annet, he whispered, his forehead coming to rest against hers. With you, I'm more than I ever was alone. You challenge me, inspire me, you make me want to be a better king, a better man. You complete me in a way I didn't know was possible. I felt it during the fight, she confessed. When I said the words, when I chose you, I could feel your pain, your strength, your heartbeat.
It was terrifying.
And it was the most real thing I've ever felt. It's a partnership, Bary promised, pulling back to look into her eyes, the bond between them a tangible warmth. We rule together, fight together, build together. Your kingdom and mine, united not through conquest or treaty, but through choice. What do you say, Princess Annet? Will you be my mate? My queen? My equal in every way that matters. Annet's answer was not in words. It was in the kiss she pressed to his lips, a kiss that tasted of moonlight and iron, of promises kept and a future waiting to be built, of a love that was not taken, but given freely and completely. The next full moon saw not one, but two kingdoms celebrate as one. The traditional mating ceremony was reinvented. There was no ritual of claiming, no act of submission. Instead, Annet and Bary stood as absolute equals before their combined packs and the representatives of 7 kingdoms, exchanging vows they had written together. I promise to challenge you when you're wrong, Annet said, her voice strong and clear, and to celebrate you when you're right. I promise to never try to change you, Bary replied, his silver eyes only for her, but to always support you in becoming who you are meant to be. I promise to fight beside you, not behind you. I promise to trust your strength as I trust my own. I promise to build a future where our children, sons and daughters, know that true power is balanced with compassion and that leadership is earned through respect, not fear. I promise to love you not despite your independence, but because of it. You are the fire in my heart and the compass for my soul. When they sealed their vows with a kiss, the mate bond blazed to life between them, a visible ribbon of brilliant, platinum light that wound around them both before settling into their hearts. The gathered crowd witnessed it, a bond not of forced fate, but of profound, mutual choice. King Eldric watched, tears of pride in his eyes. General Thaddeus stood beside him, a rare, unguarded smile on the old warrior's face. She found a good one, the general observed gruffly. She found an equal, Eldric corrected softly. That's all I ever wanted for her. In the months and years that followed, Annet and Bary proved that a partnership of true equals could achieve miracles. They combined the military might and strategic tradition of Silvercrest with the innovative tactics and fiery spirit of Flameheart. They ruled side by side from a joint throne. Annet never stopped training. She led armies, reformed laws, and became known as the warrior queen, her compassion as legendary as her skill at arms. Bary never tried to cage her spirit. He celebrated it, supported it, and loved her more with each passing day. Together, they built a kingdom that became a beacon of justice and strength. And on quiet full moon nights, they would stand together in the rebuilt garden, by the wolf fountain, remembering the battle that had proven their love wasn't about possession or surrender. It was about two strong, whole souls choosing to weave their lives together, creating something stronger than either could be alone. The mate bond, they showed the world, was not a chain. And if this story reached you right where you are, it wasn't chance. No matter where you're listening from, you weren't alone in this moment. We shared it, heart to heart. If it stirred something within you, more Alpha and Luna love stories are waiting on this channel. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for being here. Until our paths cross again in another story, guard your heart gently. If you're on board, show your support, a like for the story, and a subscribe for the ones to come. It makes all the difference.